How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball and welcome back to a tier list for you guys today. And what we're going to be looking at is the top 20 most expensive transfers in the transfer market in this summer dealings. And we're going to be putting them into 5 different tiers. So we're going from 1 star all the way up to 5 stars. So obviously 5 star will be the best and 1 star will be the worst. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys go. I think there have been, you know, on the face of things, not that many howlers in terms of the top 20, but I was actually looking back at 2019 and the transfer dealings that were done in that summer. And you're looking at like the top 20 in that year, and then probably I think about 3/4 of them were all howlers. When you're looking at Nicolas Pepe, Tanguy Ndombele, and many others were made in that window, were just absolutely terrible signings at the time. But on the face of things, knowing the players that are going to be in there, do you think this has been a good window of quality or a bad window of quality?
I think it's been a good window. That I think back then in 2019. Even the market was even crazier. Maguire was going for 80 million back then. I think things during COVID calmed down, but obviously this summer with the Saudi money and a lot of different factors going into the market, it's gone a bit crazy again with some of the figures. So I think there will be some shockers in my opinion, but I think by and large people are being a bit smarter with their money than they used to be.
Well, having said that, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the cheapest all the way up to the most expensive. And the first one is Min-jae, who signed from Napoli to Bayern Munich for 50 million. In my opinion, I think it's an amazing signing, this one. He's a man mountain. He was very central to Napoli winning the league last season. And by all accounts, I think he has started his Bayern Munich career fairly well. And I just think he's a man mountain and one of the best centre-backs in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, and for that fee, 50 million, it might sound like a lot, but I think for a player of that quality, especially what he did at Napoli last season, it's a pretty good fee. I think they upgraded their centre-back position. If they're looking to win the Champions League, it was probably a necessary signing as well. So I'll probably put him in 5 star. I think good price, very good player as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 5 star for Min-jae, and that's the first player going into the tier list. Next up is Andre Onana, who signed from Inter Milan to Manchester United for 52 million to replace David De Gea, a declining David De Gea, who I don't think has found a club, has he?
Nope, still free.
De Gea. So in terms of Onana, he hasn't started life that good. I mean, he's had some good performances, but some mistakes have crept in already. Where do you rank this one? I don't think to put it in 5 star.
No, 50 million's a lot of money, but he's had a great season in Serie A with Inter Milan last season. I think what he's needed to bring to United is that ball playing ability from the back. He's like, I think, been one of United's most creative passers so far in the beginning of the season. But I still have a few reservations about him, and I think he was very lucky to give away a penalty in the opening day against Wolves, and that moment encapsulated what probably his biggest flaws are, coming for crosses and being being physical in the penalty area. In the Premier League, that's going to cost you, I think, over 38 games. So whether he's the perfect keeper for the Premier League, goalkeeping wise, still a lot of question marks. But I do think Ten Hag knows him, and I think he'll know how to use him. But I wouldn't put him in 4 or 5 star. I think 50 million for him. He was probably the best keeper in Serie A though last season. But
he likes an early diver. Wasn't Mike Maignan better than him last season?
They're pretty even. Maybe Maignan probably shaded it, to be fair. So maybe he was second to Maignan. Probably put him in.
Wasn't Vicario better than him?
I don't know about that. I'd like to say yes, but I don't know about that. He had a very good look. They got to the Champions League final, remember, as well, and he was very good in that final.
You know, when you think of Andre Onana this season, what do you think of? You think of that goal he conceded against Nottingham Forest in the early stages of that. Was it Nottingham? Yeah, I think it was Nottingham Forest, where he just did that early dive. I was like, what are you doing?
And he got beaten from the halfway line in pre-season as well. Very lucky to not to give away a penalty against Wolves. I'll probably put him in. I'm torn between 3 and 4 star. It's a big fee, but I think he was probably worth it, considering,
especially like how much they were lacking last season with David De Gea in goal. He made a lot of mistakes. Probably on the ball, he just was nowhere near good enough. I think it's a really good signing for them. It's not 4, it's not 1. It is between 4 and 3. I'm kind of just siding with 3 just because of the mistakes he's made early on, but I think it could turn into a 4.
I reckon first season, this season, he's going to have a few mistakes, but I think next season we'll see the best of him. So we'll put him in 3, I guess, for now.
All right, Andre Onana goes into 3. Next up is Moussa Diaby from Leverkusen to Aston Villa for 55 million. And I mean, for the club that he signed for, it's got to go up there in the higher echelons because You wouldn't have thought Moussa Diaby would have gone to Aston Villa, to be honest. I thought he was going to go to a bigger club than that. He started life really well there. I think he definitely suits to what Unai Emery wants to do. Big fee, 55 million for a club like Aston Villa. But for them, he's going to be an absolute standout player. So I would say either 4 or 5 star.
I'll put him in 4, but I do think he's perfect for how Unai Emery wants to play with his Villa team in the transition. Very, very quick on the counter-attack. Has also been playing a lot more central in his last few years at Leverkusen, so less of the wing. And if he wants to be partnered with Watkins, I think he's kind of the perfect player for that. It is a very big fee, and he still needs to, show in the Premier League he can really have the same kind of numbers that he did in the Bundesliga. So I wouldn't quite put it in 5, but I think 4 stars is pretty fair.
All right. So Moussa Diaby goes into 4 star. Next up is our very own Brennan Johnson, 55 million. By the way, these figures are all from Transfer Market and they're all in euros. But that's 55 million Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest to Tottenham Hotspur. I think he will add quite a lot in terms of a different skill set to what the Spurs wingers do have. But in terms of, is he going to come in and absolutely smash it out from the first season? I do have my reservations, although I am quite positive about the signing. For 55 million, I do think it's a bit of an overpayment for Brennan Johnson. I think that he probably goes into about a 3-star signing for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm even tempted to put 2 because I do think it's a big overpayment for what we're seeing. For example, if he's more expensive than Diaby's shown a lot more so far in their careers, although he's a bit older than Brennan Johnson. I think Diaby's obviously like a player who's probably got a bit more quality than Brennan Johnson, and we're paying more money from Nottingham Forest. I do think he's a player with high potential, will help Tottenham. But 55 million is just as a Tottenham fan, I don't really care about money, but I'm looking at it objectively as I'm trying to be non-biased. And if I see a club like, I don't know, one of our like Chelsea or Arsenal signing him for that money, I'll be like, I'm not sure that's a good use of your money, to be honest.
I actually agree. I think 2-star, because when you're looking at the player that we've put in 3-star, Andre Onana, I mean, in the terms of the quality and what they've done in their career, I mean, Brennan Johnson can't even touch Andre Onana.
Yeah, so I think spending that money on Johnson, as a Tottenham fan, I don't mind, but as being objective about it, I think he's probably a 2-star signing right now.
Let's put him into 2. Brennan Johnson goes in to 2-star. Next up is Manuel Ugarte, Sporting Lisbon to PSG for 60 million. This is a player who I highly rate. I think he's a top player. I think last season he showed that for Sporting Lisbon, not only in the league, but in Europe as well. I thought he performed at a really high level. He's probably a player that PSG needed as well in the middle of the park, a bit of a fighter, someone that shows grit. On the face of things, I think to put him in 4-star for me.
I would say probably it's a lot of money, 65 million for a player who's not been at the top level for that long. I mean, he's had a good time at Sporting, but if PSG are expecting, they want to win the Champions League, that's always their aim every year. Look, I think maybe he could give them a step towards that. But if they're looking to potentially replace Marco Verratti, who's aging a bit, is Ugarte that guy? Am I that confident for 65 million?
Verratti went, didn't he?
I think he's still there.
No, he went.
Did he go in the end?
Yeah, he went to a Qatari side, I think.
Okay, so if he's gone, then is he going to be the guy to replace him? I'm not 100% convinced for 65 million if they're spending the majority of the Verratti money on Ugarte. So I'll probably I don't think it's a bad signing though, so I'll probably put it in 3-star.
3, oof. I really rate this guy. I really do. And I was actually dying for Tottenham to sign him at one stage. And I think he actually is going to add a lot to this PSG team. I'm not sure how PSG have started or how he started, but I actually think it's a 4-star. I think he's going to add so much to that team, and he's like the kind of steal that they've never had in that midfield.
Verratti is still there just about at the moment.
Oh, he is. He
hasn't officially left yet, but apparently he said he's never going to play for PSG again.
So what are we doing? 4 or 3?
I'm happy to go into 4.
You're happy for 4?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I do think he's a good player.
All right, Ugarte goes in 4. Next up is Jeremy Doku, Rennes to Man City, 60 million. And I think what you got to say with Doku, he did come in and start straight away in his first game for Man City. But there's this thing about Pep and wingers with Man City where they buy them and you don't really see much quality from them in the first year. And the second year is where they really shine. And I've got a feeling this could happen with Jeremy Doku this year.
Potentially, I reckon it could be even quicker because I think his dribbling ability is just so ferocious. He's probably the best one-on-one dribbler potentially in Europe. I think he gives Man City an option they don't have right now, which is that electric pace on the wing, which they've been missing since Sterling and Sane have left. So they've kind of needed a different option, and they've been playing a different way, but it makes them more unpredictable, Jeremy Doku. And yes, 60 million is a big fee, but he's very young, 21. I think he's going to be at Man City for many years. The only question mark is his output. Is he going to be able to give Man City the numbers that he's been threatening to do? He's never really put amazing numbers up when it comes to goals and assists in his career yet. So that's
Brennan Johnson's got better numbers than someone like Jeremy Doku.
Yeah, but I think Doku's over on the eye test, his all-round game is probably better. So I would say it's a 4-star right now because I'm not convinced that I think he will, but I'm not. I don't think we can say with 100% certainty he's going to become that 10 goal and 10 assist winger that a Man City winger should be potentially. But I think it's a very good signing.
Yeah, but obviously these numbers, he broke into the Rennes team when he was super young, I think 17 or something around that age, and he's joining a Man City team who are literally one, if not the best Premier League team of all time and the best team in Europe. So you got to say with the players around him, you do expect those numbers to go up dramatically.
Yeah, 100%. But he hasn't done it yet. So we haven't seen what a Doku season looks like with him getting like 10 goals because you just haven't seen it. I haven't seen that finishing ability from him yet. So I need to see it with my own eyes.
Is he going to make the same impact in the Man City team than a Moussa Diaby will in the Aston Villa team? I don't think so.
Is he going to make the same impact? No, because I don't think he's going to be a guaranteed starter, but he gives them tactical flexibility. Whereas I think Diaby comes as like, he's going to be part of our first team. Doku comes in as like, he's going to be a different option if we want to mix things up kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's why I don't even think you can put it in 4-star because he's not even a guaranteed starter. So how much of an impact can he actually have at this early stage anyway? I would even put him in 3-star.
I would say the reason I'd put him in 4 stars is because that's what he's brought in to do. He's not brought in to be a star. He's brought in to make them unpredictable.
Yeah,
and that's what, if you have the money, why not? And I think he's probably worth it because his underlying stats are incredible when it comes to dribbling and take-ons. They're the best in Europe, and that's what he's brought in to do. And he's still 21, so I think his ceiling is mad high. I think it's crazy high. So I think it's probably going to be worth the money. But I just wouldn't put him in 5 just yet, just because he might end up being like a Saint Maximam or something, just someone who's a bit frustrating. But I back him not to be, but he still could be that.
I think by the end of this season, I'm not sure if people are going to call this a successful signing, but I do think by the end of next season, people are going to be calling this a really good signing, and he's going to be a mainstay in that Man City team next season. But I don't know, it just depends how we judge it, to be honest, because there's so many different ways you can look at this signing, because there's the ways that you're going to look at it of what impact in the team he's going to have in the short term, what impact he's going to have in the long term. I think you're probably more looking at the latter than the former. And obviously the big money that he went for as well. And we're talking about value for money for all the other players. So we got to talk about it for him as well. In the short term, I don't think you're going to see that much value for money, but in the long term, I think you will. So it's a very hard one to judge.
Yeah, I hear that. I just think if we're judging it for what he's filling a role that he's brought in to do, even for the money, and you add in the fact that in the long term he's still going to have probably explode as a player, but this season as well, he just gives them that unpredictability, Man City, and that's all they want. I don't even expect him to get all these goals and assists. So
I think just to give them unpredictability, you can't put him in 4-star. You got to give him 4-star, 5-star if he's going to make a direct impact.
We'll put him in 3 then. We'll put him in 3. We'll settle it.
All right, cool. 3 for Jeremy Doku. Next up is Nkunku for Chelsea. He's gone from Leipzig to Chelsea for 60 million. I think this is a top signing from Chelsea. They've really needed someone that can be a fox in the box and get consistent goals, and I think he is going to do that for them this season. Once he is back fit, I think he'll be back fit around December time. It is a big a big downer that he has been injured for so long at the beginning of the season, because I think he's a player that they desperately need right now.
But hasn't he just come back from an injury as well?
Yeah, that's the problem.
So he's just come back from an injury. He's joined Chelsea, now he's got another big injury. So that's got to be a big concern if you're a Chelsea fan. Like, is he going to be is getting him on the pitch consistently going to be a challenge?
Let's see, I'm just looking at his injury record now. Knee injury this season, 90 days he's expected to be out for, from August to November. The injury before, November to February in 22 to 23.
That's last season, yeah.
He torn his knee ligaments.
So that's a worry.
Yeah.
That's a worry. He was out for
and this is actually
5 months.
This is actually another knee injury as well. The one he's got now.
Based on that, I can't put him in 5-star. As much as I think with the player-wise, potentially, I think the risk is too big.
So what are we going to set that for? 3?
Quality-wise, he goes into 5-star in terms of how good he is and his age and what Chelsea need.
Yeah.
But those injury problems and without him, they're lacking massively. So I think he probably goes into 3 just because it's so. Are you going to get him?
Problems.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Like I could say, Ansu Fati could be a 5-star signing for Brighton, but are they going to get him on the pitch enough with his injuries? You know what I mean? That takes him down. So I think the same has to be for Nkunku.
The thing is with Nkunku, right? Like, if he comes back from his injury, right, and let's say his injury problems are behind him, and he doesn't get injured for the rest of the season, or even like the first part of next season, that could easily jump 2 spaces into a 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, with the injury record, it maybe knocks him down a notch. But I wouldn't say 2 notches. I'd probably say 1 notch. But I can see what you're saying, to be honest.
So what are we going to go? You went with you last time.
All right, we'll go with you. 3-star for Nkunku. Next up is Matheus Nunes. Wolves to Man City, 62 million euros. What are you thinking about this one? And Pep actually called him like the best midfielder in world football or the Premier League or something a couple of years back. He finally got his man now. I think he will add a lot to that Man City team, but it's not exactly a player they need, is it?
I like Nunes. I think they wanted Paquetá, so I don't think he was their first choice. I think he's been really solid for Wolves. I haven't been completely blown away by what he did for Wolves, but I think he was really good at Sporting, and then he followed that by being really solid for Wolves. Adds a lot of energy, a good technical player. Does he improve the team? I don't think so. I don't think it's like Doku. I don't think he adds a completely different option compared to what they've got. I don't think he's much better than Kovacic. Obviously, I think KDB is much better than him. Obviously, he's a big price as well on deadline. That adds depth. But if I don't know if Nunes is filling in
more depth, because they already had.
Yeah, they got depth, but
it was a bit of an unnecessary signing, in my opinion.
Yeah, but and I don't see him making more than like 15 starts this season. So, but again, if with KDB out, maybe you'll see a bit more game time. I'm probably going to give it a 2-star.
2?
Harsh.
You think it's on the level of Brennan Johnson?
Yeah, have they overpaid? I guess they paid the same price as Wolves pretty much paid, a bit more. So they didn't get a bad price. So maybe it bumps up to a 3, because I do think he's a good player.
I would say 3. I would say 3 for Matheus Nunes. I think he is a really good player. But the thing is, maybe it is go down to 2 just because it's just a signing where it's just not needed.
Yeah, I just think it adds depth. And with Gundogan gone...
2.
All right, 2-star.
I've argued myself into it.
All right, 2-star.
Next up is Romeo Lavia, Southampton to Chelsea, 62 million. I think he's a player that obviously add depth to Chelsea. They needed midfield players. They got them in. They've got Caicedo. They got who else did they bring in? Enzo.
They've got Enzo. They've got Gallagher in there.
And Gallagher and Lavia. I really rate Lavia. I've been banging on about Lavia all last season and throughout the summer, saying Spurs should sign him. And I thought it'd be a really good signing for Spurs. But how much game time is he actually going to get at Chelsea?
That's the thing. He's 19. He had a lot of game time last season at Southampton, and I was really impressed with what I saw from him. But I don't know if it was the right switch to go to Chelsea. I know they're starting a project and a lot of young players, but with Caicedo and Enzo there, I don't see how he breaks into that mold. They're young in themselves. They're 21 and 22 or 21 and 23 within themselves. So they need the time on the pitch to keep developing within themselves. And they're not in Europe this season. So like, I don't know. And then also when he comes in, at a club like Chelsea, there's a lot of pressure to perform. You can't just have a few off games and like just be like, oh, it's a project kind of thing. Chelsea's a big club where, yes, they know it's a project, but they still need performances, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. So, and there's a big fee as well. And as much as I like him, this move doesn't sit right with me. I feel like it's the right player at the wrong time for Chelsea right now.
2-star.
So yeah, I'll probably give it a 2-star.
All right, Romeo Lavia, you are going into 2-star. Next up is Sandro Tonali, AC Milan to Newcastle. I think this is what you call a marquee signing from Newcastle. Top player, in my opinion. I think that he adds a lot to that Newcastle midfield. I don't think it was a player that Newcastle could have dreamt of signing a couple of years back. I really rate him as a player, and I think he's going to be sorely missed in that AC Milan team. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like this might be a 1-star signing, you know?
1 star?
Yeah, but I'll tell you why, because I feel like he's way too similar to Bruno Guimaraes. I think they take up way too similar positions. I don't think he wants to be there. I'm looking at his body language right now, and something doesn't look right with the signing. And you saw beforehand that he was very reluctant to leave AC Milan. He was kind of forced out by AC Milan because they wanted the money rather than him staying. And I don't know. I feel like they could have used a different... Like, I think they needed a kind of Maddison kind of signing, someone with a bit more guile in the final third in that midfield. And they ended up getting Tonali, who is a very good player, but I don't think it was the right kind of... I look at the balance of their midfield, and it's strong, but I don't know if he's the right profile they actually should have signed.
What's their midfield now?
Bruno,
Bruno and...
Joe Linton, probably.
Joe Linton. Yeah, I get what you're saying. They did need a bit more attacking flair, but I just think him as an out-and-out signing, I really think he's going to have a top season for Newcastle. I mean, he started okay. First game, I thought he was really good for Newcastle in their game against Aston Villa. Since then, they have lost 3 on the bounce, so it's hard to really judge.
I was very disappointed. I guess I'm going through tinted glasses because I watched his game against Brighton. He was awful, and I was so disappointed. Not only was he awful, he was lazy, and his body language was terrible. So that's probably clouding my judgment right now when I'm rating him. But I think
a lot of the Newcastle team were similar that game.
Yeah, potentially, but yeah, that's also true. But I'm just looking at how the profile player, and he's a very good player, and it ups the quality of their team. Okay, maybe not 1 star, but I feel like he wasn't the right midfielder, and they were going for Maddison before him, so they've obviously lost out on Maddison. They've gone for Tonali. I just don't know if he's the right guy. I think he could be a good player for them, but whether he's going to be seen as a great signing when it was all said and done, I've got my doubts.
Well, I was originally thinking a 4-star. You were originally thinking a 1-star. So how are we splitting the difference here?
So maybe a 3-star.
But you don't firmly believe he's going to be 3-star, do you?
I've got a feeling to be a bit lower, but I think he's good enough to be a good enough player to be in 3-star.
I think he's a top quality player. I really do. So Tonali's in 3. Mason Mount, Chelsea to Manchester United, 64 million. He's had an absolutely shocking start. He was shocking for Chelsea last season. I think when he made the switch, I don't think there were many happy Man United fans about it. There were very many happy Chelsea fans. Well, you say that, but I mean, they all hate him at the moment because of the way he snaked them. But I think that Chelsea will be better off not having him in their team, to be honest. Something just hasn't been right with Mason Mount for a few years now, and I think 1-star signing this.
I agree. I think the balance is completely wrong with him and the team. They've got Bruno. Bruno needs like extra cover for him, and partnering with Mason Mount doesn't do that, and it leaves Casemiro way too exposed. You've seen that they've signed Amrabat on deadline day, and now all of a sudden is Mount going to be first choice for Amrabat there? I think that gives them better balance. Amrabat and Casemiro with Bruno ahead, it gives them good enough ball playing ability, and with Bruno's offensive ability. The problem with Bruno and Mount is Bruno is a type of player who he gives the ball away 20 times a game, but 5 times a game he'll come up with something. And then when you've got someone like Mount next to him, who's also going to be trying things as well, all of a sudden that leads to a team just giving the ball away way too much. And yes, he adds probably offensive ability, but at the moment the balance isn't right with Mason Mount and Bruno in the team.
You see the midfield now, it's like Casemiro's doing everything, trying to do everything by himself. He's like completely a lone ranger in that midfield when Bruno and Mount are just doing their own thing.
And you add to the fact that he had 1 year left on his deal and they spent 65 million on him. That's way too much of an overpayment for a player with 1 year left on his contract. Look what we paid for Maddison, 40 million for that's what the fee that should have been for Mount. So I think when you add that into the equation, it's got to be a 1 star.
They almost should have like swapped fees, to be honest.
Yeah, literally.
Mason Mount goes into 1 star. Next up is Dominik Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig to Liverpool, 70 million euros. And I think from what he's shown so far, I think this guy's going to be a top signing for them. I really believe that. I feel like everything going forward is all going through him. He's already got his first goal. I think he's going to go some way to regenerating that Liverpool midfield, which they desperately needed from last season. I'm actually going to go as far to say as 5 star.
Yeah, I'm going 5 star as well. I agree. I think he's got world class ability. Still 22. You look at him. He looks like he's in his late 20s, but he's still 22. I think left foot, right foot. He's so 2-footed. He's got an amazing shot on him, but he's a creative passer, and exactly what Liverpool needed to regenerate that midfield, as you were saying, which was in dire straits last season. And for me, he's going to go a long way to making Liverpool a force again. So I have to say he's a 5-star signing. Brilliant.
Dominik Szoboszlai into 5 star. Next up is Kai Havertz from Chelsea to Arsenal, 75 million euros. Chelsea fans, again, he goes straight into 1 star. Look, Chelsea fans were delighted to see the back of him. Arsenal fans, before signing him, were very against the transfer. And then since signing him, they've kind of tried to back him. But now, like 3-4 games in, they're all starting to turn again. And he's shown nothing for me in an Arsenal shirt. And I think their midfield looks a bit disjointed since Partey has gone to right back and Kai Havertz has gone into the middle. And I think this is going to be a bit of a disaster signing for them.
For me, it's more if he signed for a different club who maybe had a different role for him, I think maybe would put this higher up on the list. But he's signing for Arsenal for 65 million. And they're kind of shoehorning him in. They're kind of like crowbarring him in where he doesn't fit. And it's making them just look a bit disjointed. His personal performances have been awful. He looks completely devoid of confidence, which has been drained from his time at Chelsea, understandably, because, he's been abused pretty much there for like years. And
even though he scored a winner in a Champions League.
Exactly, yeah, even though that happened. But like, I don't think he's a number 8. I think he's a number 10. He likes to... How I see him is like Dele Alli. He needs to have that freedom to operate with late runs and kind of have the freedom to go unnoticed in the box, and that's where he's at his best. But that's never going to be what Arsenal ask of him. He's going to have to be on the ball a lot, being creative, passing, and being in a lot of possession. And I just don't think that suits him. I see him as a bit like a Dele Alli kind of player, and I don't see him as a false 9 either. I don't think he's great there. I think Arsenal are going to be frustrated with him in that position. So I think Arteta will keep trying it, but I feel like unless they give him that freedom, I don't know. I think it is going to be a 1-star signing.
Yeah, totally agree. So Kai Havertz. So it's funny, the 2 1-stars so far are the 2 ones that Chelsea have flogged for big money as well. I don't know how they got 75 million euros for Kai Havertz. It absolutely blows my mind why Arsenal would pay that. It's kind of like not similar in terms of the player they are, but they spent 72 million on Nicolas Pepe. And look where he is now. I got a feeling Kai Havertz might go a similar way. But next up is Rasmus Hojlund. And he moved to Manchester United for 75 million euros. Just made his debut coming off the bench against Arsenal, and a really positive debut in my opinion. I think he adds something that Manchester United haven't had in that forward line for a very long time. They've been crying out for a classic number 9, and that he is. He looks physical. His link-up play looks top-notch. And at a very young age, it looks as though Manchester United could have that position sorted now for many years to come. And I think this is going to be a top signing for them. Can I go as far to say as 5-star? I'm not too sure just yet, so I'm just probably going to say 4-star. I'm
going to go 3-star. I think it's a good signing, but it's way too early to suggest that they've got that position wrapped up for years just because he's a strong young player. I like the look of him, don't get me wrong, and he had an impressive first season at Atalanta for in Italy, scoring 9 goals in Serie A in the minutes that would accumulate about 18-20 Serie A games. So it was impressive, and he does look good, and he's got looks like he's 2-footed, but
physical as well.
It does look he looks
at
physical.
At his age, to be that physical and like going head to head with like Premier League players, especially the team who went second in the league last year, I thought it was super impressive, and I think he's got the attributes really to be a star in the Premier League.
Potentially. I just think it's way too soon. You're paying a lot of money for a player who's yet to prove himself at the top level over a whole season, just one season. He hasn't done that yet. And yes, he looked decent in his cameo against Arsenal, albeit he didn't get any shots off or have any opportunity to score. But he looked very physical. But there are plenty of very physical strikers in the Premier League who are good, but they're not at the top elite level. And when you're signing someone for like 70 million, that's what they need. Man United aren't looking for a good striker. They're looking for an elite striker potentially, and it's way too early to say whether he's at that level. I think it's too risky.
To that elite striker level?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. I would say there are signs that he could, but I would say the jury's still out on that, to be honest. I think the jury's massively still out on that. I would say he this season is even going to get 10 Premier League goals. I'd question that, to be honest. Like, I think he's clearly got the attributes. He looks good, he's strong, he's fast, his finishing looks decent. But whether he can consistently hold up the standards of a Man United striker at this age over a long period of time, I would say there's big question marks about that still. That's why I think, given the doubt, I would put it in 3 stars. Too much doubt for me.
Yeah,
certainty.
I have a bit less doubt than you, but I agree that there isn't enough certainty there because he's such a young player. He's only had one season in the Bundesliga, but I think when you're looking at the attributes that he brings to this Man United team, I think it's something that they've been desperately missing for so long. And I think, like, by the end of the season, people are going to sit up and realise that Rasmus Hojlund is going to be a star in the Premier League. But right now, as we're speaking right now, I think you do have a very good point, to be honest. So, I mean, if it was me making this tier list, I'll probably put him in 4, but I'd be happy to settle for 3.
3.
Rasmus Hojlund in 3. Next up is Gvardiol, RB Leipzig to Man City for 90 million, massive fee, but he is literally the best young defender in Europe, in my opinion. I think he's absolutely a sensational defender. He showed it at the World Cup as well at a high level. I think he's going to go into the Man City team, not even that they needed him, but he's still going to be one of the best defenders in that back line for them. Even though he's probably not even going to start every game, I still think like he's a top signing for them.
5-star. 100% 5-star. Best young defender in Europe. He's been in the Bundesliga now for a few years and been top level. He was brilliant at the World Cup for Croatia. I think he's going to be Man City's defender for many years. I think he can play that left back role as well and that centre back role that Pep requires. I think
perfect for Pep, isn't he?
Perfect. He's great on the ball. He's brilliant off the ball as well. He's confident. He's strong. He's composed, and all of that at the age of 21 as well. I think he's playing beyond his years. I think that fee is going to look like a bargain in 10 years' time. I just think he's phenomenal. And when I talk about certainty, this guy gives me certainty. So I'm putting him 5-star.
Yeah, I totally agree. Gvardiol goes into 5-star. Next one is Kolo Muani, who has gone to PSG for 95 million euros. I mean, it's mad money for him, to be honest. I rate him. I think he's a good player. But 95 million, I mean, that is definitely an overpayment in my book. Going from Eintracht Frankfurt. I think he will add a lot to this PSG team, but I don't know. Like, for the money that they paid for him, I can't put him in 5. I don't even know if I can put him in 4, to be honest.
He had a brilliant season at Frankfurt last season. I think it was 15 goals and 11 assists. So he was a really all-round player. And also he had some good cameos at the World Cup as well when he came on, made a contribution for France. And I expect him to do more of that as well. Still, 23 years of age or 24, so still fairly young. Obviously, they're looking probably for a long-term replacement for Mbappe. Is he going to be that? Or who is, to be honest? No one can be. But when Mbappe leaves in a year's time, he's going to be the one who's going to be filling those shoes. There's a lot of pressure for him. I think he'll smash out in Liga, to be honest. But whether he's going to be good enough to take him to getting close to that Champions League, I don't know. I think that's
not right now anyway.
Yeah, and they've got Gonçalo Ramos now up front as well, and Muani's best position is centrally. He can play out wide, but I don't think he's as comfortable out wide as he is centrally. So is he going to even get in ahead of Gonçalo Ramos consistently, or who's going to give way?
I think it'll probably be a front three of all 3 of them: Ousmane Dembele, Gonçalo through the middle, and him out left.
Yeah, but Mbappe's still there.
Oh, Mbappe's still there,
yeah. So he's going to be playing.
I keep thinking like Mbappe's not going to be playing for PSG,
he will
but no, he's still there. Yeah, you're right.
So I think for now he's probably a 3-star. I'd say for the money, I can't see him getting in the team straight away until next year.
Yeah. Muani is 3-star. Next up is Harry Kane, 100 million euros from Tottenham to Bayern Munich. Best striker in Europe, in my opinion. To score 30 goals in that Tottenham team last season is a special achievement. He's got to go in 5-star.
The only reason I wouldn't put him in 5-star is because they've paid 100 million for a 30-year-old with 1 year left on his contract. Yeah. However good he is, that is the finances don't really work with that, and they've literally overpaid to get a player of that quality. But like most players of that quality, however good you are, at 30 years of age with 1 year left in his contract, you shouldn't be paying that much to get him in.
I get that, but like he was going to go on a free in a year's time, and they were never going to get him. So they paid that money to steal a march on all the competition.
Yeah, but 100 million for a 30-year-old, whenever anyone pays that kind of money for a player of Kane's age, I'm not saying that this is going to be the case this time. I'm just saying it very rarely works out. I remember how Higuain went for like 70 million at 29 years old. It was a massive flop at Juve.
Yeah, but if they would have paid that money at that age for Lewandowski, and he did what he did all the way up until 34, 35, you would call that a 5-star signing.
Yeah.
I think that's what Kane's
They got him on a free, though.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is if they paid that money, and he still pulled up the numbers of what he did for the next 5 years, which he did, you would call that a 5-star signing. And I believe Harry Kane can do that and more.
But if Kane doesn't win the Champions League, like in the next 3 years, and he only wins Bundesligas, is it not a waste of money? But can you call that a big success?
If he doesn't win the Champions League, I mean, he's going there to win the Champions League. That's what he's going there to do.
So I'm saying, if he doesn't win the Champions League, would you say that it's justified? It's justified the 100 million?
Probably not, because they would have won the Bundesliga anyway.
Exactly.
But I think it gives them a much bigger chance of winning the Champions League, first of all. And he's going to score a minimum of like 30 goals a season there. So, I mean, it's a top signing, no matter what the money is.
All right, we'll put him in 5-star.
Harry Kane goes into 5-star. Next up is Jude Bellingham, 103 million, Borussia Dortmund to Real Madrid. He started like a house on fire. I think he scored in every game. He's got assists in a couple as well. He's the darling of Real Madrid already. Absolute top signing. I think this probably could even be the signing of the window, to be honest, and he goes straight into 5-star.
If there was a tier above 5-star, I think he might be in it, honestly. Yeah. He's a superstar, absolute superstar. To do what he's doing at his age is unbelievable. It's generational what he's doing right now.
Beyond generational.
Yeah, I mean, doing what he did at Dortmund as a teenager was one thing. Even in the Champions League, he was one of the best players when he was on the pitch. Doing it at international level, he's been great at the World Cup for England, and now he's absolutely smashing out at Real Madrid, scoring 5 goals in his first 4 games, and he's not even known as like a massively attacking midfielder. He's more known as like a box-to-box, and now Ancelotti said when he signed him he's going to replace Benzema's goals. I was like, what, really? I know he's a good player, but is he going to really replace Benzema's goals? Now I'm like, okay, fair enough. He is going to replace Benzema's goals. I think he's a 5-star signing and then some. What a signing. 100 million. He's still just 20. It's crazy. He's unbelievable.
Looking at the tier list with 2 players left, I'm looking at the 5 stars, and it kind of makes me want to drop Kim Min-jae to 4-star, because I think the other 4 players there are just going to have so much more of a bigger impact than Kim Min-jae. Because I think Kim Min-jae is going to be a top signing for them, but is he on the level? Is he going to have as big of an impact as those other 4 players? I question that.
Yeah, I don't. I think you might have a point. I really like the Kim Min-jae signing. I think he improves them. But is he going to be like one of those players who's like a really good centre back for like 2 or 3 years and he gets like replaced in 2 or 3 years' time, kind of thing? Or is he going to be a mainstay for like 10 years?
I think we bump him down to 4, in my opinion.
I can agree with that.
All right, Kim Min-jae goes down to 4. Now we're on to our last 2. Moises Caicedo from Brighton to Chelsea, 116 million euros. Well, first and foremost, let's get it out there. That is most definitely a massive overpayment for Moises Caicedo. Having said that, 21 years of age, versatile player, can fill in many different roles. I think he's going to grow to be a top Premier League player. And I think Chelsea have got a really good player here. But I'm just looking at the money that they paid. And I don't think I can put it into 5-star. I'm not sure about 4 either. I don't know. I'm a bit torn with this one because I think he does bring attributes. And people are saying that he could even be the heir to N'Golo Kante's throne. But I don't think he can get that good.
I have to put this in 2, I think. I think 2-star. I think 115 million for someone who's had a good 18 months in the Premier League, who I think look, he's been really good. Has he been like the best midfielder in the league? I don't think he's been that good. I think he's been extremely impressive for a player of his age, and especially playing for Brighton. I've really liked him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's rubbish or anything, but you've paid 115 million for me for a player. I think you can get that sort of quality for a lot less. I don't see him being that much better than like Amrabat. I don't see him betting than I don't see him being better than Basuma, who we got for a lot less. Like I think you can get that kind of quality, which is good quality. Don't get me wrong. You still have to pay for it, but 150. You're only paying that because you're just so focused on we have to get this guy in, rather than thinking we have to get a midfielder of this profile. So I think Chelsea, if they were smarter, they would say, okay, look, they're asking for crazy money for Caicedo. We're going to move on and just go for a cheaper target who could still fit that profile.
He's 21 years of age.
I know. It's young. He's young and he's done well. And I know he's been impressive.
And but when he gets to Amrabat's age, I do firmly believe he's going to be a lot better than what Amrabat is now.
I don't know. I like him. I just don't see him being 115 million. I don't
he's
think
not. He's not.
I don't think he's ever going to be that.
He's definitely an.
But I don't think he's ever going to be that. I don't think he's ever going to
what is an 100 million pound player?
Bellingham, that is.
Yeah, Bellingham.
Bellingham is a 115 million pound player. Gvardiol, that is not Caicedo. I'm sorry, he isn't. As much as I think he's a good player, he's not at that level.
I really like Caicedo, but I already said 5 or 4 star is not it for him, just because of the money that they paid. But I do think that we could be looking back at this in 2-3 years' time and thinking, he's a top midfield player.
I disagree. I think he's never going to live up to the hype. I think Chelsea are going to forever be disappointed because of the fee they paid for him. I don't think he's better than Enzo, who they paid similar fee for as well.
Do you
I think
feel the same about
better.
Enzo?
No, I don't, because I think Enzo's better quality. I like Enzo a lot more than I do Caicedo.
Do you not think that they'll complement each other well in that midfield?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm sure he'll be good. But will he ever, he's always going to have that price tag around his neck. And they're always going to, however good he is, they're always going to say, yeah, but he was 115 million pounds. So if he's not literally a 10 out of 10 every game, people are going to keep saying he's not good enough. I feel.
How many down marks does he get for giving away that penalty in the first game?
He gets another. Again, maybe I'm clouded because he's had a really poor start to life for Chelsea. So maybe that clouds my judgment a bit. I know he was really good at Brighton, but I thought he was good at Brighton. I never saw him as someone who should have gone for that kind of money. I thought it was crazy what they're doing.
I know what I'm about to say is hypothetical, but I genuinely believe that Pochettino can turn him into a top player. I really do. You know how Poch loves to work with these young players and really take them on a level. And I think he's the one that's got the attributes that can really happen to. But like I said, I don't think we can put him in 4 or 5. And I think 1 or 2 is a bit too low. But I know, would you want to put him in 2?
I think I'm paying for 150 million for a player of that quality, in my opinion, probably is probably a 2-star, to be honest. For example, players who I think are probably just as good as him, and you can get for a lot less money. People like Kovacic, I think is just as good. Paulinho, I think he's just as good. People like Douglas Luiz, I think he's in the same ballpark as someone like Douglas Luiz. I really don't see him being that much better than these players I'm talking about.
All these players are a lot older than him, though.
Correct, and he is 21. But I'm saying you would never even think about paying that kind of figure for these players. You know what I mean?
Because of the age.
Not even at the age. Even if they were 21, you wouldn't.
Yeah, that's because they were nowhere near. I don't think they were as good as Caicedo is now at 21, them lot.
Yeah, but even if they were 21 now at their quality, you would never pay 100 million for them, I don't think.
At 21, to be that good is very impressive. And you got to think that he's only going to improve year on year.
I think as well, you got to factor in that a lot of the players who have been at Brighton have not been that good since they've left. And I think that a lot of the time they've helped, the system has helped them.
Yeah, well, what players are you talking about? Because Basuma's starting to flourish now.
There's Cucurella.
Yeah, he's terrible.
There are.
But I think most people could have told you Cucurella was going to be a 1-star signing when Chelsea signed him.
No, I don't think so.
Do you not think
a lot of
so?
people excited about Cucurella at the time. They were.
The numbers that he pulled out at Brighton were nothing at all. I mean, I couldn't believe they paid 60 million at the time. But he had like 2 assists with me.
Like at Brighton, they make Solly March like an amazing winger. I don't think he's that good, Solly March, but he's unbelievable for Brighton.
But I'm saying, like, who else has left Brighton and not lived up to the highs? I think Trossard has had good time at Arsenal.
It's been okay. He hasn't been as good as he was at Brighton.
I mean, I think he has. I mean, every time he comes on the pitch, I think he gets like either an assist or a goal or something. I mean, he doesn't start consistently.
Yeah, I think I don't think he's made a big impact at Arsenal as he did at Brighton.
I think he came in as a squad player, and I think he's done his job really well.
I don't think he's been bad. Don't get me wrong, but I think at Brighton he was a star. I don't know. I'm not okay. That's not like the overall point anyway. I'm just saying that's also factored in as well. I just think it's crazy. I think I would put him in 2-star in my opinion.
I kind of want to put him in 3. I do take a lot of the points that you're saying, but I genuinely don't. I think this year you might have a point, a 2-star signing by the end of this season. But I think if Chelsea give Pochettino time. Next season and the year after, I think you're going to see the value of Moises Caicedo. But if we are going to judge it on this season coming up, then it probably is a 2. But I think he has the ability to jump to a 3 or a 4 for me.
Fair enough. It's a 2.
We'll put him in 2.
Come on.
Last one is Declan Rice from West Ham to Arsenal. 116 million euros as well. The most expensive signing along with Moises Caicedo this window. I think Declan Rice is an unbelievable football player. I really do. I think you saw for England in, I think it was the World Cup or the Euro, I can't remember which one, but I thought he was absolutely central to what England were doing. I think defensively, he's potentially the best CDM apart from Rodri in the league. I think as well, going forward, he's very underrated. I think at the small times that he did do it for West Ham, I think he made an impact. And I think the more he gets used to the way this Arsenal team play, I think he's going to make a big impact as well. So I think actually a top signing for Arsenal this.
The only reason I'm hesitant to put it in 5-star is because they spent 100 million on him. And don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal player. And I think he is one of the best defensive mids in the league. But is he that much better than Partey?
And Partey?
Than Partey is best. And Partey was very good last season. I think, like, at their best, I don't see a massive difference, if any, to be honest, in both of them. And they spent 100 million on him.
The difference is with Partey and Declan Rice is, first of all, Partey's consistency has been a problem for me. And second of all, Partey's injuries are always a massive problem. You can't get him on the pitch consistently enough as you want to. He's injured again now. They're saying for a couple of months potentially, or 5 weeks, whatever it is. Declan Rice, he's got that he always seems to be available. And I think that sets him above Thomas Partey for me. And I think the quality on the pitch that you get from Declan Rice as opposed to Partey, I think you got to look at the ages of the two players as well. I think they're performing at a similar level now potentially, but I think Declan Rice has more scope to improve. So I think I would prefer Declan Rice in my team to Thomas Partey.
I just think that they've signed Rice for 100 million, and if I put a Rice in their midfield and I take Partey out, do I see a massive upgrade in their team just doing that? I don't personally in terms of quality. Obviously, all those other factors, he's going to be more valuable, all that kind of stuff. I think that's true. So you can argue it's probably still a worthwhile signing. But if you've spent 100 million and it doesn't massively improve your team, does that go into 5-star?
I think it does massively improve their team. Because I think all those factors do come into improving your team as well on a consistent basis. And I think you're talking about Declan Rice, in my opinion, right now, at this moment in time, as the second best CDM in the league. I mean, we don't talk about Partey being the second best CDM in the league.
Why not?
I don't know why we don't. I think Rice is a better player.
I just don't see a massive upgrade by Rice by Partey. When Partey's at his best, I'm saying. At the end of last season, he had a bit of a poor time, but for literally about 30 games, he was consistently probably one of the best defensive mids as well in the league. I felt. I
think Rice, in terms of a defensive player in the Arsenal team, he's the only one really playing consistently well in the first 4 games as well. I know Partey's been playing at right back, but it's more like the inverted role where he comes into midfield a lot. I just feel like Declan Rice has been playing a lot better than Thomas Partey so far this season. If you swapped
Partey in Rice's position, I think it would be the same.
Yeah,
I think Rice
maybe.
would also struggle a bit more and Partey would be better. Anyway, That's the only reason I would argue not a 5-star, but he probably is a 5-star signing because he's young, he's a world-class talent, one of the best centre mids, and he's also a leader as well. He's like a captain in the making as well.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be a fantastic signing for Arsenal. All I'm just saying is, if I'm just looking at it like Arsenal's team from this season and last season, you spent 100 million on one player and you swap Partey for Rice. That's the only. If I'm just looking at it like that, I don't see a massive upgrade personally.
I think they should be playing both of them together anyway.
Correct. I agree, but he doesn't want to.
I think he will eventually when he figures it out. And I think when you've got Rice alongside Thomas Partey with Martin Odegaard just in front, I think that is a top midfield, to be honest. And Declan Rice will be a massive part of that. I think this is a 5-star signing for me.
All right.
Unfortunately.
So
Declan Rice goes into 5 stars. So let's have a run through and see where we're at. So in terms of 1-star signings, we've got Mason Mount and Kai Havertz. I mean, Chelsea licking their lips looking at that, but maybe not licking their lips when they look at the tier 2 signings. You've got Brennan Johnson, you've got Matheus Nunes, you've got Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo. In terms of the 3-star signings, you've got Andre Onana, you've got Jeremy Doku, Nkunku, Tonali, Hojlund, Muani, and that's it. In the 4-star signings, you've got Moussa Diaby, Manuel Ugarte, and Min-jae. And then in the 5-star signings, you've got Dominik Szoboszlai, Gvardiol, Bellingham, Kane, and Rice.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think those 5-star signings are all going to have massive impacts this season for me. And how many goals is Harry Kane getting this season in a Bayern Munich shirt?
He's going to break the record.
What is the record?
41.
41
in 34 games.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Why not? 100%.
All right, well, there you have it. That is the tier list for the top 20 most expensive signings this transfer window. Let me know in the comment section below if you would change any of the tiers. Who would be your 1-star signing all the way up to 5-star signing? But thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.